Sholakaya Chakshu Unmitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Nano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Vedanta Swavadantitam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Deshatarane. Hare Krishna everyone, and welcome to Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja celebrations, which I think it's fair to say is the most ecstatic festival, ISKCON festival of the year. Certainly it's the most important one, that goes without a shadow of a doubt. So the devotees have asked me just to explain a little bit first about the meaning of Vyasa Puja, and then we'll invite everybody to say a few words in appreciation of Srila Prabhupada. And I know sometimes that can be challenging for devotees, so you can just say thank you, Srila Prabhupada. But as your heart desires. But it's always nice if we can all just express a little appreciation for Prabhupada every day actually, but particularly today, Vyasa Puja Day. So in relation to the meaning of Vyasa Puja, I thought there would be no better way to introduce that than referencing a talk that Srila Prabhupada gave himself in 1968 in Los Angeles, California. Now 1968 is interesting because it's only 2 years after Prabhupada established ISKCON, and only 3 years since he left India. So just that alone is kind of interesting. So in 1968, on the occasion was the disappearance of his spiritual master. So it wasn't the appearance day, it was the disappearance day. And Prabhupada starts by saying, I have the talk in front of me, he starts by saying, so today is the disappearance of my Guru Maharaj. For a devotee, appearance and disappearance are the same thing. And then just a comment from myself, I just find that really interesting in and of itself, because it references the two principles of Vani and Vapu. So Vapu is the physical presence of the spiritual master, and Vani is the instruction of the spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada often made the point that Vani is more important than Vapu. The instruction is more important than the physical association. And one obvious reason for that is that the physical association comes to an end. Either the spiritual master himself leaves this world, or we leave this world. And sometimes, just the nature of us as human beings and as spirit souls encased in the material senses, we often seeing is a very, oftentimes people will say, I think if you went out on Abbey Street now and asked, did a vox pop and asked the first 100 people that you see on Abbey Street, what do they think is the most important thing? Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, etc. Most of them would say seeing. It's quite an interesting thing, whereas for a devotee, hearing is definitely the most important thing. So again, the Vani and Vapu, the distinction between those two particular things. So then he goes on and says, when my spiritual master, so this is also beautiful, because this is, we're obviously appreciating and glorifying Srila Prabhupada today, but in this talk, Srila Prabhupada is glorifying his spiritual master, which is a very natural thing to do. So he says, when my spiritual master appeared at Jagannath Puri, there was a Rath Yatra, which is hardly surprising, right, in Jagannath Puri. And the cart was passing right in front of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was both the spiritual master, at least the Shiksha Guru, and also the father of Bhaktisiddhanta. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Srila Prabhupada's grandfather guru, if you like. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as you probably know, he used to be known as Kedarnath Datta, and he was a magistrate. So a magistrate was, actually the magistrate, when the British were ruling India, the magistrate was the highest position in society that could be given to an Indian person. which we won't get into the unfairness of that. We could get into the unfairness of that. We're sitting here in Dublin, Ireland, you know, and just in case you're not aware, we were honoured as being the first colony of the British Empire, the very first. We were the very first, the longest ever. 800 years, was it, man? Something like that. So we know all about this unfair, but it is interesting that at least within that system they had, that an Indian-bodied person, the highest position they could get was a magistrate. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate, and the cart stopped in front of his house on this particular Rath Yatra, and then his mother, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, and Kedarnath Datta's wife, she took the opportunity, as some do when they're the spouse of an important person. But she took advantage of that situation, being the wife of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was the magistrate, when the cart stopped, to put Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj as a tiny little baby, put him onto the cart and at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. And just as she did that, just as she put him there, one of the garlands that was on Lord Jagannath mysteriously fell off and fell right onto this tiny baby, as if someone had placed it there. So that was kind of an early indication as to the kind of significance and the kind of glorious personality that was actually there. Now here's a story that, when I first heard this story just literally blew my mind, actually. It just blew my mind. I think we all tend to get impressed by things that we would particularly find challenging ourselves, and then someone else is able to do it. There's a natural kind of awe and reverence and appreciation that goes along with that. So when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Prabhupada's spiritual master, was 2 or 3, it said 2 or 3. So let's say he was 3. Okay, I can't remember when I was 3. I actually cannot remember. Maybe some of you have memories when you were that young. I always doubt people when they say, "Oh, I remember when I was 1.5." Really, you remember that? Well done, well done. I'm not sure. I think my first memory was about a 6-year-old or something. When I was on holidays with my family in a place called Brighton in the south of England, and it was a very busy place. And somehow or other I got lost from my parents and found by a policeman, thankfully, and not somebody else. And I do remember that, but I think I was 6 or 7 at that time, something like that. So he was 2 or 3, really young boy. And one day, at home, he picked up a mango that his father or his mother had set aside to offer to their family deity. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj took that mango and he ate it. And then his father, it's described, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's described that his father, it was a very mild chastisement. He didn't get heavy with him. He just said, that was meant for the deity, that was meant for Krishna, and you took it. And at 3 years of age, how old is this little boy that we have over here? Oh, he's gone, is he? How old was he? He's 2.5. So his age, basically his age, bang on his age. When his father told him that he shouldn't have eaten that mango, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj took a vow at that very moment and said, "I will never eat a mango again. I will never." So for the rest of his life, as a 3-year-old boy, he took that vow for an innocent mistake, an absolutely innocent mistake, and chose never to do it again. And Prabhupada talks about that in this talk, that that's the principle of Acharya, leading by example. And for us to imbibe that in our lives would be just such an incredible thing. Not necessarily for something so minor as eating a mango necessarily, but for more sort of serious things that we might do, because we all make mistakes. It's the material world, we're prone to make mistakes. But when we do, to make a vow and take a vow that we won't do that again. And then he talks about, this is the last example I'll give, that one time, Prabhupada says, I was a young man. It's always funny because Prabhupada would be in his 70s when he was telling this story. I'm in my 60s now. Oftentimes you feel the need to say that when I was a young man, because it was a long time ago. And you also think there's people who are thinking, that guy was never young. So Prabhupada was qualifying it. When I was a young man, I was with one of my friends, Dr. Kapoor. who I think Dr. Kapoor is the same one that used to. Anyway, I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. I won't do that. I was going to go off on a tangent. So what's that? Oh, good. Are you like me going off a tangent? Okay. Time is of the essence, right? I was saying that yesterday when I was speaking at the Janmashtami festival that I was going to give it a pastime, an abbreviated pastime, because time is short and Krishna's pastimes are eternal. So you can never do Krishna pastimes justice, because in the material world there's not enough time and Krishna's eternal. So he was with Dr. Kapoor, and they were young men. So I guess they were in their 20s. I think Prabhupada was 22. Was he 22 when he took initiation or first met? I think when he 22 when he first met Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. So he was in his 20s, Dr. Kapoor was in his 20s, and Dr. Kapoor was with his wife. And as is the Indian tradition, his wife was a little bit younger than him. So his wife was maybe a teenager. So while they were there taking darshan, if you like, or of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, and then the girl, as Prabhupada calls her, because she would have only been a teenager, she said to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, "Oh, my dear master, I would like to speak with you." And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, "Okay, no problem. What would you like to speak about, or what would you like to say?" And she says, "Oh, no, I would like to meet with you privately." And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, "No, I cannot talk with you privately. That is not appropriate for me as a sannyasi, brahmachari, etc." So he didn't want to upset her or offend her, but he did want to make the clear point that that isn't an appropriate thing to do. By the way, it's something I always find interesting ever since I became part of ISKCON, that we always say that it's inappropriate for a brahmachari, for a sannyasi. But we shouldn't think that it means it's appropriate for a married person. Oh, it's okay, a married person can go around having private conversations and private meetings with anybody they like. So he said no, and Prabhupada makes the point that the girl was young enough to be Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's granddaughter. That's how young she was. But still, he was saying no, that is not appropriate. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was this incredible personality who was a perfect acharya, who did everything perfectly correctly, etc. And Prabhupada explains that he went on to explain that he made so many sacrifices for starting his mission in India. When Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj left, he had established his 64 mats throughout India, right down all around India, which was a huge achievement at the time. No one had ever done that before. It was a huge achievement for him to do that. And of course, he was it was a huge achievement for him to do that. So then, Prabhupada is explaining that was something that his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was also an incredibly glorious personality, but that was something his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, had tried to achieve, but it was, how would you say, it was greatly expanded and greatly more achieved by his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And Prabhupada explains that one of the things that Bhaktivinoda Thakur did to try to start his movement, not just in India, but also throughout the world, was he sent a book, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He sent that to the West, he sent it to different scholars and different academics, and he was trying to get them to read it and to have them appreciate the importance of such a work, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So he sent that to the West. And the year that he sent that to the West was 1896. That was the year that Bhaktivinoda Thakur put that in the post to the various academics, 1896. And Prabhupada says, coincidentally, that was the year that I took birth. So there's always these connections between things. So this is the grandfather guru who wanted to spread Krishna consciousness both throughout India and in the West. Then you had Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, who continued that legacy and did very successfully achieve that throughout India by establishing all the different mats as we mentioned. And then Prabhupada's making the connection then that the year he sent the book was the year that I took birth. So then he goes on to explain that how he came in contact with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj himself, his own Guru Maharaj, how he came in contact. And that's a story that we know, it's in the Lilamrita, I won't elaborate on that now. But Prabhupada just explains in his talk to his disciples, he's saying that I was born in a different family. My Guru Maharaj was born in a different family. Who knew that we would come together? And then when we came together to find that his father had sent that book in the year that I was born, etc., etc. So who knew that we would come together? But even more incredibly, who knew that I would come to America? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the grandfather, was preaching Krishna consciousness, trying to establish it in India, and even tried to establish it in the Western countries. And then came his son, who took that legacy, like you see in the Olympics when they're running, they have the baton, they pass the baton on. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur passed the baton on to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was more successful than Bhaktivinoda Thakur in establishing Krishna consciousness throughout the Indian subcontinent. And then Bhaktisiddhanta passed this baton on to Srila Prabhupada, and then Srila Prabhupada was the one who came to the West. Even the grandfather had started that by sending that book, born in the year, sent in the year Prabhupada was born, and then it was Prabhupada who came to the West and established the Krishna consciousness movement in the West. So Prabhupada says, we were born in different families. Who knew that we would meet each other? Who knew that I would come under his protection, under his shelter? Who knew that I would come to America? We see so many different persons in the room today from an Indian background. So it's very common now. I think there are more Indian people out of India than there are in India, right? Or at least it appears that way. So there's so many Indian people here. Now, if I ask you, I want to ask you a question. How many of you took an airplane to get to the West? Everybody. Okay. You can count. What's your name? Meet. Thank you. He's confidently saying everybody. I believe him. I think he's telling the absolute truth, okay? You all came by airplane, but Prabhupada didn't come by airplane. He didn't even come by, Stena line comes into my brain, where you can go on and you can get a cabin, nice comfy cabin, and there's lots of things to do, you can wander around. No. He came on a cargo ship. A crappy, horrible, stinky, rickety cargo ship. That's how Prabhupada came. What an austerity. When you're going back to visit your family next month, 6 months' time, will you go back on a cargo ship, any of you? You don't want to follow in Prabhupada's ship steps? So Prabhupada came on a cargo ship, but he says, who knew that I would come to America? Because that was a big deal at that time. That was a big deal. Actually, the American government, 6 weeks, I think it was, before Prabhupada came, the American government had passed a law in the Senate or the House of Representatives or whatever way they do it over there. They had passed a new law expanding the visa program specifically for Indian people. I think it was because they wanted more medical people to come and help in their hospitals. So again, who knew that would happen? Prabhupada didn't know. Prabhupada wasn't planning around that. He just, when he applied for his visa, he was able to get it. But he wouldn't have been able to get it if that new law had been passed. So who knew that I would come to America? That was an amazing thing that happened, that Prabhupada actually came. And then Prabhupada says, who knew that you American boys and girls would come to me? Because that's another phenomenon. As you know, in the first 6 months or so when Prabhupada came, nothing happened. He even went back, dare I say, on his appearance day. Sorry, Bob. It's in the Leelamrita, so. But he even went back one time to the Scindia Steamship Company to check what their schedule was for ships returning to India, because he was making no impact. And he was thinking that I failed, this isn't happening, and he was apologetic, etc., etc. But for one reason or another, he didn't actually buy the ticket, and he continued to try. And then, of course, he moved from Butler, Pennsylvania, which is where he started. He stayed with the Agarwal family, where that most beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada was taken with their little son or daughter. Was it a son or daughter? Daughter. Little daughter. Oh, yeah, little daughter. Oh, it was a boy. You're telling me boy, he's telling me girl. Okay. You go outside and fix your arm. I'll just say, I'm saying it's a child. Your argument is a child. Go on, outside. Okay, so their child. So that beautiful picture, Prabhupada's come, here we are just talking about, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur did in 1896, what then Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj did. Now Prabhupada's in Butler, Pennsylvania, with this kind of, in one sense, heavy burden on his shoulders to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master, to spread the message of Krishna consciousness in the English language, etc. So he's kind of got that pressure, for want of a better word. And there's this beautiful picture with their child. And Prabhupada's got this huge smile on his face, because he's playing with the child. This huge smile on his face. And the mother says in an interview, wonderful interview she gave, and you can get it on the ISKCON video kind of systems or whatever. She says, she's asked by the devotee interviewer, what's the thing you most remember about Srila Prabhupada? And she said, his oceanic smile. And that was because of the exchange he had with his daughter. So Prabhupada came. So, sorry? Son. Did I say daughter again? Sorry. I think in this day and age we would say it was a they, right? Does that solve the challenge now? Okay. So Prabhupada says, who knew it would come? Who knew this would happen? So what I was saying was he didn't have success. Then he decided to go to the New York and to go to the East Village part of New York. That's where traction started. And it's quite amazing. How did that traction start in terms of the movement spreading? Exactly what we were doing a few minutes ago with Jayananda Prabhu. What happened was he started chanting Hare Krishna all on his own with a single pair of cartels, all on his own underneath the tree. I believe it's an elm tree. We will keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't get Dutch elm disease. But anyway, because there's no elm trees left in Ireland as far as I know, right? No elm trees left in Ireland, they all got this disease. Anyway, under this tree, he started chanting simply with a pair of cartels. If you go to Tompkins Square, that was the park, Tompkins Square Park now today, if you go there, the city authorities have put a plaque up on that tree, and they simply call it the Hare Krishna tree. It's called the Hare Krishna tree. Yeah. So that's what Prabhupada did, and then the movement literally then kind of took off. But then Prabhupada explains in this, and I'll finish with this, I think, because we don't have that much time. Prabhupada says that around the 9th of December, he says, in what year was it? 1938, I think. I don't have that here with me. Or 36, I think it was 36. 1936, he was doing some business in Bombay. Prabhupada was a Grihasta, he was doing some business to pay for his family, etc. So in 1936, I was doing some business in Bombay. And I decided at that point to write to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, my spiritual master. I decided to write to him. And the reason that Prabhupada wrote to him was he was feeling a little alone, a little, I suppose, despondent, a little kind of disenfranchised, I suppose would be a good word. And the reason he was feeling like that was here he is in Bombay. His spiritual master, I guess, was in Mayapur or somewhere a long way away. And Prabhupada's doing business. He's not directly engaged in the preaching program. And so he's feeling that. He's feeling alone, a little disenfranchised, disconnected like that. So he decides to write to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And he's in the letter to his Guru Maharaj, he's kind of explaining, he's basically saying, he's feeling left out. He's saying, he's kind of saying, I'd like to be a sannyasi or a brahmachari, because the sannyasis and the brahmacharis, they stay with you in the temple, they're with you all the time, they're hearing your messages all the time. Of course, nowadays we don't even need to do that. Everything's on the internet instantly. You can hear everybody anywhere in the world. But in those days, you'd physically have to be in the same place as them. So he was saying, and they're with you, I'm never with you, and so he was kind of, expressing his inner feelings of the whole situation that he found himself in. And he wasn't really expecting a reply. But literally within a couple of weeks, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj had written back to him. And he said to him, basically, I'm ad-libbing now, I don't have the words in front of me, but he basically said to him, don't worry, I think Krishna, and certainly I, have high hopes for you, great plans for you. And what I would like you to do is to spread this message of Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking world. And then Prabhupada goes on to, first off, so that letter came within 2 weeks of Prabhupada writing to his Guru Maharaj, and within 2 weeks of receiving that letter from his Guru Maharaj left this world. So it was the last communication that Prabhupada had with Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And Prabhupada says that when he got that, he tried to take that instruction seriously. That's what he tried to do. But he said it was difficult because I was a householder and I didn't know how it would be possible to fulfill this instruction of my Guru Maharaj. But Naryachana Kahi Chidrajan, there's this wonderful verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam when Bhishma Dev is lying on the bed of arrows and Yudhishthira Maharaj is also despondent, and Yudhishthira Maharaj, in English terms, we would say he was in bits. He was like really feeling it. And he was wondering the Battle of Kurukshetra, the whole thing, and all the devastation that followed. Now the grandfather Bhishma is lying on a bed of arrows about to leave this world. And Yudhishthira Maharaj basically said, Why has all this happened? And Bhishma Dev responded with Naya Shakahi Chidrajan. Nobody knows the plan of the Lord, but the Lord does have a plan. So Prabhupada says this in this, he says, I didn't know how this was going to happen, but this, meaning in front of all his disciples in 1966 in Los Angeles, California, you can't get much further away, Los Angeles, California to Bombay, in the space of a few years, you can't get much further away. And he said, this is all Krishna's arrangement, that this has all come together and happened. So he says that if you sincerely try to follow, so it doesn't mean you have to achieve it, it doesn't mean you have to be successful, just that you sincerely try to follow the instruction of the spiritual master, that Krishna will provide all facilities. Once that sincerity is there, Krishna will provide all facilities. That is the secret. So I took it a little seriously. He says he went on to study the Bhagavad Gita verse 241, which is Vyavasyatmika Buddhi Ekaka Kurunandana. And the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prabhupada says he studied this, that with this determination to take this instruction as our life and soul, that anything can be achieved. So, Prabhupada said, I tried a little bit in that spirit, being humble. He tried a little bit in that spirit, getting on a cargo boat that none of you are willing to do. And look at you, most of you are teenagers or in your early 20s, and it was an emphatic when I said, are you going to go back on a cargo boat? No. So Prabhupada was 69 years of age when he got on this cargo boat. As you know, suffered 2 heart attacks on the way over. That's just an incredible story. I still don't understand. I still struggle to understand. Every city in this planet has statues of their heroes. We've got them on O'Connell Street, and whatever. You've got your statues of all the so-called heroes like that. I cannot understand, at least in Calcutta, why there is not, right in the main square of Calcutta, why there is not just a statue, but some kind of like museum glorifying Prabhupada. It still completely bewilders me, because what he did is just extraordinary. Even just taking that trip is just extraordinary. So Prabhupada says, I tried a little bit in that spirit, and now Krishna has given all these facilities to serve him. But then he goes on, and this is what I want to finish on. He says, now on this occasion of my spiritual master's departure, as I am trying to execute his will, similarly, I shall also request all of you, so this was Prabhupada's direct disciples at the time in the room, I shall also request all of you to execute the same order of my spiritual master through my will. So Prabhupada again is passing on the baton. And the uniqueness of Prabhupada passing on the baton is that he is not just passing it on to his direct disciples. This is a super, super important point, if I could stress on it. He's not just passing it on to his direct disciples, that came up to 1977. Obviously after 1977, Prabhupada did not give any more initiations. So anybody who came in contact with Krishna consciousness after 1977, who came into contact with Krishna consciousness before 1977 in the room? Not one single person. Not one single person. So, but this instruction is still for us, and the reason that it's still for us is because Srila Prabhupada established the organization called ISKCON, the first international Vaishnava organization, if you like, in the Western world. And he will forever be the founder Acharya and preeminent Shiksha Guru for every single ISKCON devotee going forward, generations and generations and generations. For as long as ISKCON exists, Srila Prabhupada will be the founder Acharya and the preeminent Shiksha Guru for every single one of us. So this baton, when Prabhupada is saying this, I shall now request you to execute the same order through my will, is for us too. He's instructing us too. I am an old man. I can pass away at any moment. That is nature's law. Nobody can check it. So that is not very astonishing. And a quick comment from me. Yes, it's not very astonishing. Yet practically speaking, 99% of the living entities on this planet are trying to avoid that reality. They're trying to ignore it, forget about it, however they do it, through listening to music, through taking drugs, through watching television, through whatever the means is, everybody is trying to avoid it. And that, unfortunately, is the most foolish thing that we can do, because you can't avoid it. As Prabhupada said, that is nature's law, nobody can check it. And that's a key point for inspiration for us. Most of you are a lot younger than me, but I can also remember when I was young. Only when I was 6, actually, I don't remember before that. But, and it's gone. It's like yesterday, and now it's here, you know, and you just have to do rough calculations. So if my first memory was when I was 6, I'm 63, that was 57 years ago. Yeah, 57 onto my age now is what, 60, 17, 50, I'll be 120. Yeah, like I will be 120. So, you know, it's like time is passing in an instant. So how much better, rather than watching the television or listening to music or doing even worse things than that, how much better it is for us to just engage in the service of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna, because that will be to our eternal benefit, whereas all those other things will simply be just for short-term gain or short-term benefit. And to mention Maharaj Yudhisthira again, when he was asked the question, what do you find the most astonishing thing in this world? In this universe, not just even this world, but this entire cosmic creation, material cosmic creation. What do you find the most amazing thing? He says, Ahanyahani Bhutani. The most amazing thing is, in this material world, is that everybody has experienced somebody close to them who has died. How many has experienced? How many people still have all their grandparents living? All their 4 grandparents living? Not one person. You do? Do you have any of your great-grandparents?
No, not
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. So we've all experienced, you know, in my own case, all my 4 grandparents are gone, both my parents are gone, one of my siblings has gone. You know, we've all experienced people leaving us in this world, but Yudhishthira says, but the most amazing thing, that everyone has experienced people dying, close to them dying, but they all live their life as though it is not going to happen to them. So whatever time we have left, we should dedicate it to Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada says, but my appeal to you on this auspicious day of the departure of my Guru Maharaj, you should try to push on this movement. People are suffering for want of this consciousness. And a Vaishnava or a devotee of the Lord, his life is dedicated for the benefit of all people. You know, most of you belong to the Christian community. How Lord Jesus Christ, he said that for your sinful activities, he has sacrificed himself. And even when they crucified him on the cross, you imagine the pain of that. You know, you've got nails through your hands and your feet. You know, sometimes you get a little cut and it annoys you and it's painful and whatever. So you're nailed to a cross, feet and hands, and they cut him in the side as well. They put a crown of thorns on his head. But what did he say? He said, forgive them, Father. Forgive them, Krishna, for they know not what they do. So this incredible compassion that these great souls have for humanity. So he sacrificed himself. That is the determination of a devotee of the Lord. They do not care for personal comforts. Because they love Krishna, therefore they love all living entities. Because all living entities are in a relationship with Krishna. So similarly, this Krishna consciousness movement means to become Vaishnava and feel for the suffering humanity. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to...
So now we request the Grace Mother Prabhu to speak a few words. So next, after Manu Prabhu would be Shani Mataji, and then
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. As each day goes by, I appreciate more and more your grace to humanity at large. and to me personally. We all want to act in relationship with the Lord and under Krishna's guidance, and not under our own selfish desires. Srila Prabhupada, you have truly opened up for us the opportunity to act as a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. No one has ever explained as clearly who our Lord is and how we can act in relationship with Him as you have. In your purports or ecstasies as you've described them, I'm amazed how you can simultaneously describe to all different levels of devotees on bhakti, and how much you can describe in just one small purport. And there's so many purports. That way, you communicate to everybody as though mystically to the different stages of devotion. And I keep coming back for more, because we can never be satisfied with the ocean of bliss which you have mercifully opened up for us. This is just a short offering, but every year I see this day as an opportunity to rededicate my life to you and to your mission, ISKCON. Please guide me for the coming year and beyond, and help me to act boldly in your service. Your servant, Manudas. Hare Krishna.
Just to mention that there is a link that gets sent out for the International Vyasa Puja book. Did some of you got that? Did you get that this year? No, that's a shame. I should have sent it to. Actually, I should have sent it to you, Sugati. Anyway, there's an International Vyasa Puja book, so devotees from all over the world contribute to that. I'll still send you the link. Actually, you can. So I wrote an offering, and I'll just read that also. So this is my own offering to that Vyasa Puja book. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. While I was thinking about what to write for your Vyasa Puja this year, and of course there are unlimited options to choose from, consistent with your glories and achievements, a link to an article on mental health dropped in my email and got me thinking about that subject and its relationship with your mission. My memory of the term mental health back in 1977 is that it was not such a commonly used phrase, and thus it was not something people gave much time or thought to. The other memory I have of mental health at that time was that it generally referred to people who were quite damaged and in many cases dangerous. So much so that they had to be contained within secure facilities, similar or maybe even worse than prisons. If we fast forward 50 years or so, the picture is very different. Today, mental health is a term that casts its net far and wide, and on one level or another, there seems to be few in society who are not touched by this phenomena. Thus, it is very clear that while we still have those who are so badly affected by mental health issues that they still have to be contained within secure facilities, a far wider and ever-growing challenge is with those who are suffering in a less extreme but still significant way. Another phenomena that didn't exist at all in the 70s or even the 80s or 90s for that matter is social media. Social media is a phenomena that has swept through society like a tsunami in recent years. And even though there is little in the way of comprehensive research to determine its effect, there is little doubt that it is a big driver of the increase in the mental health epidemic that society now seems to be drowning in. The fallout from this epidemic appears capable of destroying whatever humanity, compassion, piety, and common sense that is still struggling to survive in our world. You once wrote in a letter to Gurudas Prabhu in 1977, and this is very interesting actually, just to focus minds on this. This is a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote in 1977 to Guru Das, and he said, the installing of telex communications for our main temples is not required. Then they will gossip more through the telex. The telex, by the way, was the precursor to the fax machine. It was a really basic form of communication, but Prabhupada did not want the telex machine in the temples. He said it would just increase prajalpa. I think the gossipy effect and impact of a telex machine could likely be multiplied a few billion times or more for us to get an understanding of how pernicious, all-encompassing and traumatic social media can be. This is one reason why we have so many people now suffering with mental health issues. As ever though, no matter what the material energy comes up with, no matter how overwhelming it may appear, there is the ever-present and simple solution to neutralizing it in an instant. And that is focusing on and service to Lord Sri Krishna. If persons who are suffering in the forest fire of this material existence will only enter into the nectarian river of the description of the pastimes of the Lord, they will forget all the troubles of miserable material existence. Lord Krishna also advises us in the Bhagavad Gita, Udared Atmanatmanam Natmanam Uvashadayet. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and is his enemy as well. In your Bhaktivedanta purport, you write, the purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. For 99% or more of the world's population, there is no understanding of this simple and sublime point. So they continue in the firm grip of Maya, and for every moment they spend in Maya's service, they are exposed to the relentless and merciless nature of the material energy and its concomitant misery. Furthermore, and more importantly, they are deprived of the sweet and incomparable bliss of devotional service. In 1971, you wrote, now upon the shoulders of you, the leaders of this movement, falls the responsibility of practically saving this earth planet from the present dangerous position. So the work is in your hands. If I'm allowed, Srila Prabhupada, may I beg your mercy to help all your devotees to continue to impact more and more on those suffering from all mental health issues as a result of them depriving themselves from the sweet shelter of service to Lord Sri Krishna. That way, your devotees will be ever more successful in pushing on your mission, and surely they will fill your wish as you expressed in your 1971 letter. May I conclude by thanking you, as many times as there were a social media message sent while I've been writing this homage to you, for coming to lead this battle against Maya. She is a real tough, stringent opponent, so we need your mercy, blessings and guidance now more than ever. Srila Prabhupada ki. Ashani, are you ready to say something?
Shani Mataji.
Yeah, I've got a very, very, very short one.
Great.
Yeah.
Who's next? Son.